I am Colm. I am a DPhil student with the Bennett Institute, and I'm excited today to talk to you a little bit about data curation, a little bit of communication, like I say, and demonstrating my core skill as a student. So naturally, I started by looking at a list of hot celebrities. Now, seeing as OpenSexy doesn't exist at the moment, I was able to identify individuals who happen to be very good looking. I then I grouped them by their primary job, but working as a data scientist, I developed sort of, sense of truthiness for data. Something just doesn't seem right here. So I went, checked my data, I went back, did the same thing for women as well, and still something just doesn't seem right. I think something's missing. I'm sure all of you are just screaming at me right now. Where are the data curators? At this point, even I have to let reality in. Data curation just isn't that sexy. If you ask funders, they'll say, see you later, data curator. It's not gonna happen. Even most researchers, it doesn't get the post rating. Which would be absolutely fine if it wasn't for the fact that data curation is unbelievably important as well. So let's take the example of ethnicity. So let's say you've spent the time and effort on completing, or I have completed my study in OpenSafely. I want to compare my study to other sources. Unfortunately, I've used our superseded code list, which has the grouping of South Asian here, and isn't directly comparable to the NHS standard for ethnicity, which has the Asian group. At this point, I'm feeling sad, and I really appreciate how important it is to understand my data at the start of the project. Similarly, I've extracted my population. I'm delighted here. I've got 78% that have a known recorded ethnicity in primary care, but I also know there's this secondary care data. I can use that in order to supplement to get a juicy 92% completeness of ethnicity. Wonderful. But the problem here is I haven't appreciated that secondary care records represent a sicker population. And I may have just biased my sample. Again, I'm feeling quite sad. So as a researcher, how can I be given a little bit of a nudge to ensure that understanding my data is the fundamental foundation of my research? Well, one way of doing it, as I'm sure everyone here has read in the past, is to, my example of an ethnicity short data report, do a deep dive into an individual topic, write up 3,000 words, publish it in an open journal, bingo bango. But it would be weird if you had a study with only one variable in. So let's say you've got a study with around 20 variables. At that point, we're asking you to read about 62,000 words, which is the equivalent of the Hound of the Baskervilles. And that's before you even get anywhere near your analysis plan. And let's be honest, Sir Arthur just about has the edge of me in terms of writing style. So the question becomes, can we do better? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to introduce you to Colm's law. So Colm's law states that if you talk to me for 5 minutes on any subject, at some point, I will shoehorn in the fact that I'm trying to teach myself calisthenics. So I've started this, despite a complete lack of ability and aptitude for it, I've started this long-term vanity project, which might be completely pointless, leaves me feeling frustrated and exhausted on a daily basis. The progress is absolutely glacial. But to distract myself from my PhD, I've also decided to try and teach myself calisthenics. As you can see here, I'm not that fussed about proper technique, but avoiding injury is very much key for me. So I could have looked up some peer-reviewed papers with keywords like pull up and avoid injury, but instead, it's much better to jump onto YouTube, find a big, strong boy who can demonstrate techniques for you, such as Daniel Vadnais of Fitness FAQs here. So can I do the same thing for data creation? Well, I had to go. If you follow these links, then you will see how it went. Luckily for everyone here, I'm not going to force you all to sit through the entire video, but I will give you a nice short live demonstration. See how that goes. There is movement, excellent. For every 100 patients whose latest recorded ethnicity was mixed, 5 also had a recorded ethnicity of Asian. So I'm going to discuss that this video is a good learning point for me on things that worked and things that could maybe be improved. I had 2 goals making the video. Number 1 was to create an engaging resource for researchers. So how can I do that? Going back to calisthenics, there are a plethora of big, strong boys and big, strong girls out there on YouTube who will show you how to do exercises. So why do I particularly like fitness FAQs? Well, they're very stripped down, non-flashy, non-gimmicky videos, but what really comes across is that Daniel Wagner here is basically a massive nerd. Like, he's very knowledgeable, but he's just geeking out on his area of interest. And his enthusiasm and joy in sharing that knowledge really comes across. Compare that to my video, where I essentially reached into my big old bag of imposter syndrome and pulled out that strange fake researcher accent. And even the language I used was like trying to convey, I'm a very serious researcher, rather than, hey, here's this cool stuff that I learned that I want to share with everyone. This sentence, for example, the completeness of primary care ethnicity recording ranged from 77% in the southeast of England to 82.2% in the West Midlands. It's very stilted and unnatural compared to something like, we saw some variability in ethnicity recording. It was low as 77 in the southeast and as high as 80% in the West Midlands. My second goal when I made this was trying to coax other researchers into making videos. One of the things I particularly love about Open Safely is the community of researchers we've formed. I've been incredibly fortunate to work with quite a few Open Safely collaborators now. And what really strikes me every single time is not just how knowledgeable you all are, but how witty and engaging you all are too. And if I could help to harness that and help other researchers and collaborators learn from that, then I would be absolutely cock-a-hoop. Where I slightly fell down on this when I was making my video was my choice of using Animaker. So Animaker is a great, fun, free short video web interface. It's got simple drag and drop interface, I should say, and it has all the things in the world that you can add to it and do it. But the thing is, all the things in the world can be quite distracting, and it'd be hard to, you have to be brutal about time boxing your project, and it can be tough to justify dedicating the time to learning a new process. So I think it definitely introduces a barrier to other researchers. So again, we ask, can we do better? Well, I had to go. This time I spoke as Colm, not Colm Andrews, researcher. I also simplified the process by using PowerPoint. I mean, PowerPoint is very much our bread and butter, as you've seen from many, many wonderful talks today. Personally, I like to add a bit of dynamic movement, just jazz it up. But the beauty of PowerPoint is you can make it as simple or snazzy as you like without having to learn any new software. This slide I had to keep in, even though it is terrible. I was so happy when I was making this. I was like, oh, I'm knocking it out the park here. This is such a great metaphor. Only through Open Safely can you see what's happening in GP practices. Sometimes it's helpful to take a step back and say, calm down there, Scorsese. Like, simpler is better is such a useful mantra. So my question again becomes, can we do better? Well, this time I don't have the answer. I'm hoping that all of you can give me the answer. So please take the time to watch the 2 videos, follow this link, and share your feedback on what you think works, and if there's anything you'd like to see more of or less of. And please, 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 if you want to share your research with us and want to do something like this, we would be delighted to host you on our blog website. And if you do, then who knows? In future years, we might have better representation. Thank you all, and yeah.